Welcome back to another episode of Feelin the Healin with Foltzy. And I'm super excited about my guest today, Louis Martorano. Did I pronounce that right?
Hey, man, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not too
I've been
bad.
practicing.
Yeah.
He's the one thing I've been wanting to do is hit on nutrition and for athletes and what better way to do it than a high profile chef. Louis has a tremendous background. He's been in the high profile hotel industry and a resort industry. He's cooked for I think 5 presidents of the United States of America, which is pretty cool. He's been a part of a lot of All-Star and I think New Year's Day, like bowl games.
Well, yep, a lot of New Year's Day bowl games down in Orlando and
a lot of that. Yeah, he's
good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. He's currently with the Braves. He's the executive chef for Truist Park. So he's going to come here today. He's going to tell us about his story, his life, and he's going to shed light on nutrition and kind of the nuts and bolts of what really young athletes and even old athletes should kind of hit on. But so Louis, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
I know it's kind of a tough day getting here, but we got here, and
that's all right. That's all right.
So tell me first. I want to go into the Louis, where you grew up, what kind of your life, and kind of the segue into what you're doing in culinary.
Well, I had a pretty normal life. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. When I was born, my dad said, he says, Louis, because you're of Sicilian descent. You're from New York, and you're a Yankee fan. So that's how I grew up, and I had 2 great brothers. My mom, an incredible woman, growing us up. Excuse me. There's that Brooklynese that comes in, right? So growing up in New York was just phenomenal background, big family, very tight-knit neighborhoods. But we played from sunrise till sunset outside, and even when the sun was down, we were playing nighttime games just to keep us outside, right? So you were a 4-sport athlete, not knowing you were a 4-sport athlete, and so that's all I did growing up. I went and played high-level hockey and high-level baseball, and until that dream ended, I never really focused on school.
Yeah,
it wasn't something I really focused on. All I wanted to do was play, right? If I wasn't playing, I was hanging out with my friends.
Yeah,
and and we were just creating games when we were doing things like that. So when it was time to straighten myself out and realize that I needed to do something in my life, I had great direction from my dad, and I just said that, listen, I'm going to go cook. And he thought that great, fantastic, because he thought I'll last maybe a year.
Yeah.
And 35 years later, it's taken me all over the country, and I've cooked for 5 U.S. presidents, and definitely have taken this position to heights that I've never thought I would.
Yeah.
And I don't want to think I'm done for sure. I there's a lot more I want to conquer, but I started off at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City in my career, and I haven't looked back. And I while I was in hotels, those were the types of houses that I put myself in, companies that I worked for. Boca Raton Resort and Club, another phenomenal property. You get to, the who's who. You get to 3 of the presidents I got to cook for there. The both Bushes, Clinton. As soon as he came out of office, he had his first speech was with Morgan Stanley, and we held that event. So pretty cool stuff to be part of things like that, and having Secret Service running around and having to go through that. And then as the executive chef of Hilton Orlando, I had Barack and Michelle a few times, and so which was good. And you start getting comfortable when you hear POTUS is coming in, and that acronym, and you're like, okay, and there's a program, and the same Secret Service lead comes in. He says, "Hey, chef, how are you?" And you get kind of chills going down your back, going, "That's pretty cool getting to do it a couple times, right?" So
I get visions of the Secret Service making you taste the food before you give it to them.
It still has a lot of trails it has to go through. you know, they more or less won't taste, but they do watch everything.
Yeah.
There is somebody posted in the kitchen. There is somebody posted at the loading dock watching food coming in, watching
Oh, I
out
bet.
at every point, and it's pretty interesting. You know, for the most part, you know, when he's moving in and out, you don't know they're there,
Yeah.
right? It's pretty cool the way they do operate, and then there's on the other side of the spectrum. You know, I did the NBA All-Star game, and the whole top level was taken. One side was LeBron, and the other side in 2014 was Kobe, right? So
Oh, yeah.
it was pretty cool watching them walking in and out. And we were the headquartered hotel, and I had Dirk Nowitzki and Nash buying out my restaurant, my steakhouse restaurant. And oddly enough, I met Jeremy Shockey, me being a Giant fan, right, during that time too, right? So it was pretty cool, you know, to have those types of events. And hotels, you know, for culinarians was for me was a phenomenal upbringing in the world, because of you get to see everything.
Yeah.
I get to see the bake shop, you get to see the pastry shop, you get to see the butcher shop, you get to see a saucier. So a lot of classical escoffier kitchen setups come from big hotels. So a kid who wasn't educated, a kid who decided not to go that route, that's the route that I went. A little rougher, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I did an apprenticeship at the Waldorf Astoria, but, you know, you still only get one time to do it right.
Yeah.
But that's the route I chose to do, because I didn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
And I knew that somewhere down the line, you know, everything about a chef is it's experience. If I had to talk to a young kid today, I tell him to go to school. I tell him get that experience.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. That's probably, I don't regret my path, but it's definitely an advantage. Going to school, get that understanding, get that evaluation of truly what you're walking yourself into.
Yeah.
Right? I chose to do it. I chose to fight myself through the lows, because there are lots.
Yeah.
Right? And once you get past the going home smelling like mirepoix every day and carotene on your fingers because you're dicing so many carrots. You know, my first job at the Waldorf Astoria, I was in the veg kitchen. And we hand chopped all the veggies for the entire resort, because it was an escoffier kitchen. Then I went to the saucier. It was brigade everywhere you went.
Yeah.
Right? And you wanted to get through to roast and saucier. That was the best position, because once you're a saucier and you're first of all, you're hourly, you controlled it, right? And but you were working with everyone, and you were creating the 5 mother sauces. So there was a lot of things that you touched your hands on, you got to see. But when you were the saucier, you were the guy batting in the 4-hole. You know, you were the guy enjoying yourself as the hourly.
Yeah.
You know, so
I just think it's cool how, and guests that I interview is, you know, their path of really what they were meant to do in life, and how they kind of went. I mean, yeah, it took some grit. It took some cutting veggies. Maybe that's going to be in the new term. Hey, you got to cut your veggies to make it to the next level. Not eat your veggies, but you got to cut your veggies. But you got to eat your veggies too. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But
Sure.
But it's, you know, it takes hard work. But it's also, you know, you're obviously designed to do this, and that's what's pretty cool. I know you maybe not have went and got a college education or whatever, but you still, that was your path, and here you are today, you know, overseeing a massive thing that happens every day, every home game, even more so than the home game. There's things that go on behind the scenes that I don't think people understand, and I want to talk about in a little bit. But it's, you know, it's a lot of stuff. But you're designed to do that, and you're doing it. That's just really cool to me.
And I think that, you know, for me, you had to show the work ethic. And I was very, very fortunate to have some phenomenal chefs show me the way. All I needed to do was give them the energy.
Yeah.
And I knew that there were things that I lacked, but I also knew that there wasn't anybody who can work as much as me.
Yeah.
Not as fast, because fast is one thing, right?
Yeah.
I just gave myself the ability to work. What did I need to do to learn to get myself to the next level, right? So if I couldn't make my hockey game that night, I couldn't make it that night, right? So if I couldn't do the things with my friends, I didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't rent the house in the Hamptons that summer because we were getting destroyed and I couldn't make the travel into Manhattan, I didn't do it,
Yeah.
right? It hurt, but I needed all my buddies went to SUNY Albany. They moved on. A lot of them did too.
Yeah.
They did a lot of good things for themselves, and I was playing.
Yeah.
Right. I decided not to, and when it was time for me to not play anymore,
Yeah.
that's what I did. So I was very, very fortunate to have chefs show me the way, and then after getting to that level, have executives show me how to read P&Ls. So that was huge.
So let me go into now what you're doing at Truist and with the Braves. I think a lot of people they get their ticket, they go to the ballpark, they go to the game, and they're
It's
like,
about
hey,
a hot dog.
yeah, and they just think, okay, this is it's a they don't know really what goes on. I mean, it's a big undertaking, correct?
It's huge.
Walk us through kind of just briefly. You don't have to go into a lot of detail, but
well, it's good. Sometimes detail is good. I won't drag it out because I don't want people to fall asleep. But it is a massive undertaking. For a 7:20 game, staff shows up at 6 in the morning, right? So they're there 13 hours, right, prior to first pitch.
Yeah.
Right, and that's just that day. It takes 2 days to get the ship ready for the first day, right? And there's a lot of undertaking that you have to realize. We smoke all our own meats, right? So
Wow.
once you consider that I smoke ribs, brisket, pork butts, right, and chicken thighs, and wings. So I have 4 huge smokers, but you still have to rotate, and everything takes 12 to 18 hours. And then there's a process where you pull the brisket, we wrap the brisket, and it goes back in for 3 more hours, right? So how does that work in a 24-hour period and get ready to service, right? So you're starting that a couple days in advance, and you're processing meats, and you're getting them ready to go, and there's HACCP plans and what comes down to temperature and bringing it into temperature, and then how it's cool down and how you reheat and things like that. So there's so many things that have to go into, and then when is the rollout? And how far in advance do you send rollout, right?
Yeah.
So I have concession stands, and all the food has to go to concession stands. Then you have premium clubs. Premium clubs are that. They're premium clubs, and if you're going to spend that kind of money, the food needs to be fresh. And we don't drop the food in Delta until 5:15 for a 5:30 start, and then we're cooking in the kitchen as we go, as if it's a restaurant. Truist menu changes every night, right? So Delta changes every series. So if you're at a 3-game homestand, that kitchen flips 3 menus in 9 days. And if I could tell you, my chef counterparts, they know that, right? That's 1,900 people, and you have, so it's how you manage the food in, food out, how things. And so on the logistics end is huge. You go from 20 people in your kitchen on a non-game day to 415 people walking around your kitchens on game day, and then corralling them and understanding, what needs to be done, how you're doing it, what we need to do, and this is how it's supposed to look. Right? So,
and then not to mention if you get a special guest that shows up that says, hey, maybe, and all of a sudden you open your big mouth and say, what can I make for you today? And then all of a sudden,
we have that. I have a couple of those, the Braves executives, and namely Mr. Schiller, Mr. McGirt, and Mr. Plant are they're just really, really good people, right? And they make me feel like I'm actually part of the team, and I feel so. You want to do 120%. And Mr. Schiller knows I'm a big hockey freak, and he also knows I'm a Yankee fan, right? But I have to keep that down low. But I do root for the Braves. They are my team. They're heart and soul. My wife doesn't even know what a Yankee is, to be honest with you, right? Just so we can clarify that, and she'll laugh. So one day he just told me, "Hey, I want you to come. Make sure you're in the bunker." And the bunker is his suite where I feed him every evening, and for every game. So I walk in, and Wayne Gretzky. Right? So for me to walk in there, and he's with Don Koharski, and you talk about a super, super nice guy, and he made me feel comfortable, and I was able to talk to him about hockey. We're sitting there for a few minutes, and he says to me, he goes, "Hey, are you going to be here on Tuesday?" And I'm like, wait, I'm the chef. I'm here every night, right? He goes, I go, what can I make for you? He goes, man, could you make me my mom's cabbage rolls? I says, Polish cabbage rolls? Absolutely. What would you like? I says, would you, veal, pork? And he says, surprise me, and pierogies. I said, no problem. So he came in the next day and on that Tuesday night, and sure enough, they called me up and said, hey, Wayne just walked in. I walk in with the stuff, and he was floored. He ate it. We took pictures. And as I'm sitting there, and he takes, I'm talking to Koharski, he takes my jacket and he starts signing this really nice thing on my jacket. And he says, thanks for making my mom's cabbage rolls. And it's a unique sign. It's just not a Gretzky signing. He just wrote this thing on my chef's jacket. And so I have it in a plaque put on my room, but really, really cool. And just the interaction. And it goes on from there. I mean, Cuevo was cool. He comes in, he's in there a lot, and he has big ties and lots of people. If I tell you that,
well, I know
they do a lot in there. I can't tell you probably my best interaction is the returning Braves.
Yeah,
they're all classy. They all come in really, really cool. It's great to run into Chipper, and me being an outdoorsman. Yeah, I like to I watch his show, so it's pretty cool. And that stuff is really good. I'm sure, he's a big outdoorsman too. I know big outdoorsman. You like to hunt. He likes to hunt. Yeah, big guy right there. And to hear him talk baseball too, right? And to see how Matt and Riley and how he's there working with them. So it's good stuff. Well, kind of segueing into sports and talking about these Braves players. I think. There's a lot of young people that are, that have these dreams or have this aspirations to make it big. I mean, with every kid, whether you're in the driveway shooting a puck around or you're shooting baskets, it's the last 3, 2, 1, he wins. Everybody has they all want to be like that pro athlete. I think, obviously it takes talent, but there's other components to it that I think a lot of people don't. They probably think about it, but they don't really take it to heart. And one of it is just nutrition for young people, even the pro athletes. They know what it's all about. But in the day and age of mom and dad working, rush to get to practice, rush here. Okay, we only have time to go grab. Let's grab some French fries. Let's grab some nugs, chicken nugs. Boom, we're done. And I think it's growing harder, maybe for these young athletes and even people in general, just to get some just simple, basic nutrition. There's a lot of noise out, tons and tons of noise out there, and I would tell you that knowing the nutritionist interaction that I have and past experiences, and I was very, very fortunate to watch my son play a very high level play in baseball. We were in a baseball factory in Orlando. Mm-hmm. He played, my son's travel ball career. He was surrounded around Zach Veen, Vaughn Grissom, Riley Green. These are kids that are in Bryce Hubbard, Carson Montgomery. These are all kids that were on his travel ball or played against him in high school. They have been drafted. Right? Yeah. So pretty cool to be able to have that. That being said, at Florida State, my son's at Florida State, so Carson Montgomery went to Florida State from his high school, so did Bryce Hubbard. So now they're drafted. He sees freaks, right? And I don't mean to call that in the wrong, but what that drive is, what it takes to be that player, to be considered, right? Yeah. I mean, Carson Montgomery, who went to San Diego this year, got drafted by San Diego. He's hitting bombs. He went to Cooperstown, and we know him since he's that big. The kid's been hitting bombs since, but he's a pitcher. Yeah. Right? And converting from outfield when he was a freshman on a high school team, the kid's throwing 91 miles an hour from the outfield, right? And just throwing 300 feet, and you see those metrics, right? Those are the metrics that they're looking for. Yeah. Okay, so how do you get there? Right? How do you maintain that? Yeah. Both physically, right? Yeah. And then still having that drive. Yeah. Right, because there were other kids and we played on power baseball, which is an elite program coming out of Orlando, and there were other kids that were better that phased out, didn't even make it to that other level, right? That's it. When they were that 16 years old, you're thinking, oh, here they go. Then they phased.
Yeah.
And other kids came past that. So you have to look at where your growth pattern is, both in physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Because it's such a mental drive. You have to stay focused. And if you're focused with that, nutrition is huge. You need 3 basic, well-balanced meals, right? What do you want to have in between those meals should be energy to get you to your next meal, right? Normally it's a fruit, good carbohydrates, nuts are very good, right? Those are the things. The empty calories, okay, so the fast food, right? Anything that could sit on your shelf that contains a preservative, your body doesn't really recognize well.
Yeah.
Your body is in tune to recognize proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, right? If it doesn't recognize something, it defaults it to fat, right? So it's a storage. And that's why you have to watch about these chemicals that go inside of us, the red dyes and all things like that, right? So, and trust me, my wife kills me when it comes to that because I was a fruit ice freak, right? Until you educate yourself, right? And you look at it, right? And just start making my own fruit ice, right?
Yeah.
So for the past 21 years, my kids will tell you I make cookies for them, right? Although cookies aren't great for you, the 9 items that I put in it are what I put in it. Right.
Yeah.
So from flour to butter to sugars, right? I put the stuff in there. There is no chemical going in there. There's nothing on there. The cookie dough lasts for 6 days. After it's done, you throw it out.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, I make you a new batch, right? Fresh eggs. Don't eat the raw cookie dough too, right? So things like that, because first of all, raw flour on your teeth is no good. It disintegrates your enamel, right? So there's things like that you just educate them. But I didn't know that growing up.
Yeah.
I only know it as I go further.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I have to tell patients this a lot too, because they're going through, and it's really no different than the healing after a major sporting event. I mean, there's breakdown of muscle, patients have that, they're in a healing process of whether it's post-surgical or injury, and think about it, sports, football's injury, hockey, there's injury. That's just the way. Baseball, throwing, there's going to be some injury of the shoulder that has to recover. And I tell patients, I'm like, hydration, you're getting your protein, your fruits and veggies, you got to get your vitamin A and your C, and all these are precursors to collagen regrowth and collagen formation. And I think it's not, it just goes beyond just in my world, the health, the rehab industry and PT, but these young athletes need to know, you get done playing a sport, you got to recover. You've got to get things back in balance. And I think one of the big things in hockey world was my kid growing up, maybe still is chocolate milk after the game.
Oh yeah.
Because
I was going to say it's one of the best things. If you really want to drive having that protein shot for the kid, here, make sure you have a chocolate milk. What kid didn't want to have chocolate milk, right? So right now, Braves 30 minutes after the game is a meal. Right.
Okay.
And they all have their different types of protein. The vegans will have the legumes, right? They'll eat their beans and veggies on the way in. The steaks, EVO, a little extra olive oil, a little salt, pepper, a little less, but heavy proteins because and you want to consume that 30 minutes after you're exuding yourself. So after any kind of exercise, so especially a game, hockey. Especially after hockey, first thing they're doing blowing out is they want to eat, right?
Yeah.
Your legs need food.
Yeah.
They need that right after. It's very, very important. Pre-meals. So cooking for Florida State, Notre Dame, all these big schools that came to the Capital One Bowl in Orlando, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 5 days, they ate 6 times a day.
Wow.
Right? And there's 6 times a day, and there was 3 proteins, 2 pastas, every meal, right? And they wanted these kids to just load up on this because they were burning that energy. That was their fuel. Pre-game, right? They ate 3 hours before pre-game, nothing before pre-game. They had bananas for cramping.
Mm-hmm.
They would do fruit for cramping, right? Other than that, they eat their meal 2.5 to 3 hours prior, depending upon what their travel was, right? So their body would have enough fuel inside to exert for 3 hours, and then they have protein after that to recuperate.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, think about how you have to feed yourself to be ready for that, right? To give yourself enough energy so your muscles have enough protein to be stretched, ripped,
Yeah.
pounded, right?
Yeah.
For that exertion. And then what do you do to repair them after it, right? And myself, I lost 31 pounds in 2015 because I was having guys beat me on my off wing that they shouldn't have. And it was just I was flat footed. I just didn't have the movement. And as a high level hockey player, and it was I said, well, I'm either going to quit or I have to lose weight.
Yeah.
And I decided to lose weight, and now I even skate forward every once in a while.
Yeah, you're a phenomenal hockey player for sure.
No, right? No, but it's fun. It's fun. Got a game tonight.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I the one big message that I was thrilled to have you here today, because I wanted the people to hear about you getting your pathway and what you're doing and how you got there, and then to understand a little bit about the inner workings of what goes on to put on game day stuff. But I really wanted to hear a little insight, like you just told us, about what it takes for the nutritional complexities really that helps a young athlete and even a collegiate athlete and a pro athlete. And I think that it's hard for kids, but it falls upon a parent. Hopefully some parents will hear this message and say, you know what, we need to do a little bit better job on maybe whole grains and fruits and veggies and the proteins and stuff, pregame meals, postgame stuff to help our kid, not just your athletic kid, but just children in general.
Well, I would think from a kid who's making that transition from little league to travel, right? If that's an expense, as parents we know, right? It's an expense. So if you're only going to do that portion, then you're doing yourself an injustice, right?
That's right.
And I'm not telling you put your kid on a power protein diet. That's not what I'm trying to say. 3 well-balanced meals. Make sure they get great rest. Make sure they have the proper hydration during the game. Now, right? So stay away from high sugars, right? You shouldn't have to drink the sporty drinks. A young kid, right, does not need energy drinks, does not need any kind of propellant to get them to that next level.
Yeah.
No young kid should use that.
Yeah.
Right? It should be their natural energy, give them a good, well-balanced meal, make sure they have plenty of rest, you put good food through their systems, right? And it's a good regimen for them. That is what a kid from 11 to 15 really needs, right?
Yeah.
When you're starting a muscle development, right? 16, 17, when you're starting to stretch more and looking into weights and things like that, now you can start thinking about driving a higher protein diet into a kid. And I would say if you're a parent and you have that investment in your child, do not shortchange them.
Yeah.
Right? Give them the ability to have those things, or at least educate them to let them understand where that needs to go, right? Because if not, you're doing both of yourselves an injustice by not taking the ball through the goal line.
Yeah, and you just hit it hard when you said investment, because we invest so much in our kids' athletics with the private lessons and everything we do for the travel cost, and everything. But if you're going to shortchange them the equipment, but if you're going to shortchange them with the simple process of a meal, then that's just an easy thing that can help them. Yeah, right. I mean, that just adds to the investment. That's easy.
Help them. If they're taking care of themselves, they're able to keep progressing. Then the lessons and everything else become a little easier, or you could see it because now you see him or her taking care of themselves and they're growing. Does the swimmer, does she have enough, or the soccer player, does she have enough, or he have enough, right? Have I done enough as a parent? Sometimes, just saying, hey, I put him here, I got him this coach, I did that. Not necessarily the best, even though that's more than what most might have, but you really should help them and well-rounded.
Yeah,
right. That's it.
Well, I like to end each kind of filming and each one of these shows with my guests kind of giving their strategies or their keys to success. Some people, it's like, it's just hard work, or it's, doing the best you can be, or whatever like that. So, I want to hear the Louis Martorano's, strategies or keys to success. Whatever you got, hit me with it.
Well, I didn't take an easy field, right? So I would just say that keep your head down, keep plugging away. If someone's in your way, keep pushing.
Outwork them.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Just like in any sport or just like in any position, there's only one executive chef.
That's right.
Right. So in order for me to hold that role, right, you have to lead.
That's right.
And for me, I lead by inclusion. Right. So I was fortunate enough to have leaders do that for me. So I pay it forward. But I would just say that if there's someone in front of you, that show them that that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right. And just keep applying yourself. So as long as you apply yourself,
yeah,
you'll get what you need. Right. Don't wait for it to come to you.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes if you wait, it won't
wait.
come. You gotta drive, right?
Opportunity comes by you knocking down doors.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Louis, it's been awesome having you here. This is something I've been wanting to do. I would have been wanting to talk about nutrition. I thought, what better way than an executive chef who's grinded, who's worked hard, who's
fun.
Where he's at today, and he's still working hard and could shed some light in the world of nutrition and all that. And so if you're in town, maybe go to the Braves game. You might see Louis.
Oh, you'll see me. You'll see me. I'm all over it. I'm on every concourse. I'm extremely visible. I love it. I don't mind the feedback.
Yeah.
Right. You make yourself a target. I am on the concourse, so please come say hello. Good stuff. On Fridays, you'll see me in my red outfit, Braves Fridays. So
Thanks, Louis.
All righty. Fantastic.